end and the last convoy going out of town. We're pretty sure that it got stuck by that roadblock, that major roadblock that was there going to the east between the division, the 21st Division, or the 24th Regiment was backing them up. We do know that Lieutenant Reagan, who was the commander of Company H, makes it out by hiking out over the top through the hills with a sergeant that leads that group out by the name of, I can't remember his name. We do know that, but the sergeant says he was out of it and was not very much under control. Willa received a telegram, of course, within a week saying that Uncle Donnie was missing in action. And received this letter by mail, by telegram basically later, or it confirmed, of course, that he was missing in action. On October 10th, 1951, a year and a half later, the Army Effects says, hey, we have no real update on your son, Donnie. However, we've got all of his effects. Would you like them? Of course, Willis says, yes, I'd like those back. So here's the inventory of the effects they sent her. A New Testament, 2 New Testaments, a Bible, a ring, unit citation, ribbons and brass, a bill filled with a little bit of cash in it, a couple of springs, a bundle of folders, a Jap hat emblem, some fish hooks, we didn't know we liked the fish, a stamper with pilot, a belt, a box of letters, and a skate key. Things that a 17-year-old kid might have. On the 31st of December, 1953, 3 years later, she received this letter that Uncle Donnie was declared dead.
They hadn't found his body. How did they get all that stuff?
Oh no, he would have been back in probably behind the lines.
Okay.
Well, all the company stuff would not have all been shipped up front when they went into battle. More than likely, all he had was a pack on her back. However, on May 1954, the 19th of May, she received a funny letter that says, hey, is there any way that we can identify him by teeth? Do you have any information about his dental? And there she comes back and writes a letter and says that a Dr. Parrott was a dentist that I can remember. He had a tooth extracted back there in Colby, Kansas. Remember I said that at the beginning. The Army was pretty thorough. They contacted Dr. Parrott, and he said, hey, I never treated him, but there are 2 other doctors here in town. Dr. Storr said, nope, I don't. And Dr. Arnold came back and said, yep, I treated him on March 15, 1946, and I extracted the lower left first molar. However, the x-rays were destroyed in a fire. He had a fire there. So, we know he had a tooth extracted, but we have no x-rays for comparisons. Nothing else came out of the Army. So his sisters, Ann and Ruth, decided in 1988 that we put a memorial beside Willow, beside her grave. And the Army, of course, paid for that little marker that's sitting there. Of course, at that time, they would always send a letter or a Christmas card from the president to the person who's related to it. And they'd also try to send updates so they're trying to still find him. Nobody from the family ever just paid much interest in that until my wife got involved in 2010. And we attended our first Korean War annual government briefing. I'm not sure if you're aware or not, but the government does every year for World War II, the Korean War, Vietnam War, and the Cold War. Basically, for people that are missing in action, we'll take the closest relatives in and give them an update on what's being done to find their remains. They do them either in Washington, D.C. or in local areas. So the first one we attended was outside of Washington, D.C., and we went there and heard people crying, and it was just all exciting, and we had no idea what was wrong. So we went back in 2011 and said, okay, let's get some information, see what we can find out about Uncle Donnie. So we requested copies of the morning reports. And we also asked what his duty station was. We asked, where he was at. And it gave us quite a bit of information. It told us, he was part of a 4-man mortar team. And we finally received then copies of those daily reports, which I showed one in earlier. From that, we were able to track down what he was doing and where he was at. We also started checking the POW list. Like I say, at this time, The North Koreans were brutal. That's a polite word. They were cutting off people's hands and other parts of their body and doing all kinds of very, very bad things to people. And the people they did capture, they marched them what's called the Tiger March, all the way from Taegan, all the way up north. Johnny Johnson, who's one of the prisoners who was taken there at Daejeon, kept a list of everybody they met. And he had over 500 names of POWs from July of 1950 through when he was released in 1953. And that list, of course, had a lot of people on it to check names against them. When they stopped on that Tiger March, they would write in chalk, usually inside of schoolhouses and so forth. And they would write on the chalkboard the names of the people who were there. And then also after the war, POWs would create a list of the people that they saw. And now, of course, there's actually 4 lists. We went into Russia, if you don't know, and they had this area where they had all of the KGB files, and they were sitting underneath with about 2 feet of water on the floor, and the file cabinets are up high, and they allowed us to go through them for about 6 weeks. And they went in and took pictures of all that stuff as well. So there were some names and so forth that came out of that. All of those lists didn't have any names that were even close to Matney. Matney's kind of an unusual name. He wasn't even anything close to anybody.
We have to replace this guy over here. Kick him out.
Your hand by the...
Doing a poor job.
The Korean War was the first war where bodies were identified and returned stateside. Previous to that, what would happen if there was a major battle is they would just bury them on site, have those white crosses and put them up. Vander's Field over in France from World War I, all the other battles in World War II. But in Korea, they decided that the best thing to do was to bring home our folks. And again, it wasn't really a war, it was only a police action. So what would happen, of course, is they'd have original burials near the battlefield. And you can see on the left-hand side is the first cemetery that was actually set up in Korea outside of Daegu. There's a picture of that. Then what would happen is later they would actually take the remains of that, they identify them, and ship them off back to the United States. If they couldn't, they would try to identify them at a centralized location. In the first place was a place called Tangat, which was a major holding place there in South Korea. And they would sit there and they'd go through it and try to figure it out. If they didn't have any success in Tangat, then what would happen is they'd send them over to Japan. Kukura was the main one for that, Kukura Mortuary in Japan. As you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, what they would do is they'd take the remains and they would treat them with formaldehyde. They'd set them in there and they'd soak them up there, and then if they couldn't identify them, they'd have them all treated in formaldehyde. So in 2013, we met with a guy by the name of John Zimmerman. John lost his father. He was an Air Force captain. Plane was shot down over North Korea, never recovered. So John had a passion for identifying MIAs. He went in and forced the government to declassify files and what they had. And he was very, very much instrumental in doing that. And he went in then and made copies of all of the files of all the folks that were missing in action, what the government had, and made those available to us. And they call those the X-Files. The unknown soldier that's buried in Arlington National Cemetery is an X-File. Basically what it is folks that went through Kukura or one of those other places and weren't identified and were identified from that. So he gave us 4 X-Files and said, it's a good chance that your uncle may be one of these X-Files. All this is handled by the Joint POW-MIA Accounting Office, or JPAC. And JPAC has 2 offices. First one is outside the Punch Bowl in Honolulu. Beautiful area out there. And the Punch Bowl is sitting up behind Honolulu, is that big volcano on the side. Up there is buried a lot of the remains and so forth. It's a big memorial. And then the other one is in Omaha. Up there is from Kukura, there's 866 remains that were brought back from Korea and buried in the Punch Bowl. And an 867th one, which of course is the unknown soldier. Unknown soldier. Below there, if you'll notice, there is a picture of the table. They try to identify those remains still to this date. And what they do is they'll take the remains and set them out on those tables on the side there, examine them, and try to identify each of them based on other things that they can use to identify them. From 2005 through 2009, JPAC only disinterred 7 remains, and we're only successful in identifying 6. There's 866 of them there. We're doing about 1 a year. How many years is it gonna take to get that done? Here's one of those X-files, X900. I've known X900 was recovered from a shallow grave about 200 yards west of, and I won't even try to say it, along that main rail line. So now it's possible it could be Uncle Donnie. The rail line didn't go through that area. He could have tried hiking out. This area is a little bit north of Tejon. The estimated time of death was July 1950, so it's very possible it could have been here. Here's the identification checklist that came out of those classified or declassified files. So here's what was found with those remains, and it says that. And at the 1954 review of remains, 25 MIAs were still associated with X900, and Donnie Matney was number 21. So it's very possible it could be him. Here, though, is the actual person that found those remains and did bury them. We went out and interviewed him, and he says, I buried these remains on July 12, 1950. Well, that can't be Uncle Donnie. He didn't die until July 20th. So we know it wasn't X900. However, X729 is the other one we'll take a look at. The map on the left is actual picture map of Tejon today. And it shows the big city, and of course it's totally unlike what it was on that original map. And there's big city roads and the areas, just a huge area. But you can see on there MIA pictures of the remains of 12 people that were associated still with X729. And where they thought those people were based on the Army's records. You'll see that Cpl Matney's down here, kind of in the center area off this side, and other people up here in the other areas, inside town. And again, that main roadblock was right up in that area up there. If you actually look at the remains for X79, which is the map on the right, it's right where that big major roadblock was at. Again, I stated when they got remains they couldn't identify. They tried very, very hard to identify them. They did that through a couple different times, like 2 or 3 different times during the war and then after the war. This is the March 1951 review of those remains. This says to the person that, hey, I buried these remains on July 20th, 1950. Very, very consistent again with Uncle Donnie's. And there are 3 other remains that were found in that same area. So from 7th August 1951, a year later, the Army said, here's what came in with those remains. A piece of cotton drawers with a laundry mark M3188, a web pouch, and 2 illegible markings. I don't know if you can read it or not. It's pretty hard to read. The remains that were found, I said there was 5 remains found in that same area. 3 of the 5 were from the same company as Uncle Donnie. The 4th was also from the headquarters company of the 34th Infantry, which is in the same area. And X739, I said 29, was unidentifiable in 1952. However, William Badel was identified later. He was originally noted as X740, was buried in the same grave as X739, and he was one of the people that was with it, Uncle Donnie's company. In fact, was also in the mortar group. 1954, this is the next review over in Japan, they came back and said, well, we'll take x-rays, we'll try a little bit harder to see if we can figure out what those remarks are, the laundry marks on the equipment. And he says, well, it could be X3187, could be X3, well, we don't know for sure what it is. And their conclusion out of that, again a little bit later, May of 1954, is that, well, we better try something out. It could be Uncle Donnie, it could be a couple other guys, but maybe we ought to ask for some dental records from Willa. So here's the letter that came back to Willa that said, where's your dental records at? Do you have any dental records that can help us identify these remains? So the Army thought there's a good chance it could be Uncle Donnie, but we need some dental records to do that. Of course, Willa sends back, there aren't any. So the formal review from X739 in September of '54 says, well, my marking's the best thing we got over there. Donald Matney had one that was very similar to it, but we don't know for sure it's him because we don't have anything that can physically tie it back to it. So we have to leave X739 as unknown. So we looked at all of that and said, this looks pretty much promising. Things have changed since before. Now you can use DNA analysis to identify remains. And your success rate on doing these things has gone up from 6 out of 7, up to about 98%. They've got very, very high success results for identifying remains. You just have to get them done, out, and get them done. So we said, we did a formal petition to the Army and said, let's disinter X-739, the Paramecia Zenko Bounty. We did that, note that date, April 2014. So, notice the date on this little flow chart, down on the bottom corner. Anybody see it? What's it say?
1st of June 2014.
Oh my gosh, the Army didn't know what to do. They got a request to disinter something. They don't know what to do, so what do? Create a flow chart. How long does it take to create a flow chart? About 4 months. So they finally come up with this process. If somebody outside of the group says disinter something, here's the process we have to go through to get approvals. Look across that list. There's a lot of big names on that list. All the way up to the Under Secretary of the Army. So on June 3rd, wait a minute, we requested on April, we get a letter that says, yep, we're going to go ahead and start the process to do the disinterment. This is the date that the Army first said was going to be our date for that we requested. It has to be after the flow chart was created, right? It can't be before the flow chart existed. Couldn't have anybody do it beforehand. But they came back and said, nope, nope, okay. So you really requested it on June 3rd.
Where was he buried?
Oh, get to that second. Patience, patience.
Got to disinter him. You got to bury him first.
Yeah. X-739 was actually out in the punch bowl out of Hawaii.
Ah.
Yeah, that's where all those remains were at. On December 5th, we got that exact same letter, except they changed the name at the bottom. First one, if you look at the name at the bottom, this one says Sherry Renz. The other one said, basically, the guy by the name of Shorty Cox. We call him Shorty. It's Charles, but we call him Shorty. And we have a lot of history with him. So December 5th actually becomes the official one for the Department of Defense. That's the date that we requested. Not the one in June, not back in April, but December 5th. Then we received another letter March 3rd, 2015, same letter, still Sherry. We have no idea why they sent it to us. Come on, go forward. So in 2015, we did this December updates that flying back to Washington, D.C., didn't find anything new. However, we did receive from Shorty Cox a phone call that said, yep, finally the Army has approved disinterring X-739 in March 2016. Remember I showed that picture down below where they had the remains out front? This is those tables that were through that we could see through that window, with the actual remains of X-739 displayed. So this is what is found from the burial from X-739. In red, that's the skeletal actually there. Highlighted in red are the parts and pieces that are there in the remains. From those remains, they were able to determine that it was a male, 17 to 20 years old, with an expected age of 19.4. Uncle Donnie would have been about 19.2. We know that it was a European ancestry. His height was between 64 and 69 inches. Uncle Donnie's height. However, those remains were treated with formaldehyde. I mentioned that we had pretty good success with identifying DNA in other ways. DNA doesn't work if you're immersed in formaldehyde. What formaldehyde does is it encapsulates all of the cells that are in the body, and they only have about 30% success rates with DNA when it's encapsulated with the formaldehyde. So it depends on whether remains are found out and how it's done. But if they're in formaldehyde, it's very, very hard to get DNA. From the teeth records, again, we don't have any x-rays. They're all gone. We did have those records from the original. These are the actual pictures from the remains. It shows that it's possible it could have been him. Now, I mentioned that they had those 12 that fit the build characteristics 739 and that map that showed those 12 locations. All of these still, only these ones out of that, I think 10 got knocked out or stayed in based on, or 12 could still fit them based on the dental records. And they included Uncle Donnie. However, here's the interesting thing. When he went in the Army in 1950, guess what happened? He took a chest x-ray. Why would they take a chest x-ray?
Tuberculosis?
Yeah, huh?
Tuberculosis?
TB, right. So they always took chest x-rays. Now, in 1978, there was a big fire back in
St. Louis.
yeah, destroyed most of the Army records. However, it didn't destroy all of them. It destroyed most of them. Uncle Donnie's were not destroyed in that fire. So they did have a picture of his original x-ray. And when they compared it to the one below, which the original x-ray is the one at the top, the one below is the one from they took of those remains. And you can see all the points that are common. From that, though, there were 12 other remains that were associated with X-739. His was the only ones that had any of those points. So the 99% certain it was him based just on these X-rays. So on July 19th, 2016, we were notified that, yep, that's true. Donnie was actually X-739. That's the official record that came back from that. We were called by Shorty Cox, and he said, yep, these are actually Donnie, we have very good news for you, and we'd like to meet with you. However, we're out of money. Our budget only runs through September, so I can't meet with you until after September, sometime in October or later, because I have no money until next year. So we said, okay, fine, let's do it this third week of October, we will meet. At that time, again, Donnie's 99-year-old sister was still alive, and his younger brother, Leonard, was still alive. So we said we would meet at her home. Basically, she was in a nursing home at that point. At that time, she was pretty much bedridden. However, when Troy Cox shows up with the Sergeant Beal, who's going to be her case officer, she got out of bed and went in there and met with him. She just really wanted to learn about it. So we had a good 2-hour meeting with them where we went through and decided, yeah, we'll bury him, but we want to do it fairly quick because she may not last very much longer. So we scheduled the burial for the 19th of November in Seymour beside his mother. Pictures up the top left, of course, you can see my wife there with me on my shoulder, Barry up there. As they're bringing it off, they flew him in, his remains in from Hawaii. He was accompanied by a different sergeant, had to stay awake the whole time, make sure nothing happened to those remains. And flew him into, actually down to